Hello, audience. Welcome to the Human Paradox podcast. This is episode 1, and today we are going to be covering the topic of the Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Undertaker feud, which, for the purposes of this podcast, we have come to call the end of an era saga, for lack of a better term. A lot of people like to call it Undertaker versus DX, but personally, I don't like that term because he never really fights them at the same time. Doesn't sound right to me. I guess that I should start off by introducing myself. I'm probably most known for my username on YouTube, The Klooch. I made an Overwatch video, I think it was 2 years ago, that for some reason got 1 million views. I'm not sure why, but that video got me 1 million views. And now I'm doing this, and I'm here with my co-host.
What's up, everybody? I'm known for nothing.
He's known for nothing.
I'm known for nothing.
What's your name, though?
I'm Ben.
Oh, I'm Aaron, by the way. Let me say something really quick. So, Human Paradox, right? That's the name of this podcast, and I guess that the whole idea behind the Human Paradox and the whole idea behind this podcast really is that the only thing that a living thing should want to do is survive. That's all that a living thing needs to do is survive to function, and yet we as humans like entertainment. There's been many studies where humans are very social creatures. Humans that suffer from boredom, they have health problems. We need to be entertained, and we shouldn't need to do that. Theoretically, all that you need is food, water, and shelter. That's all that you need. But if you have come from my other channel and if you've watched my survival video, then you know, right? You need a purpose. You need something more to your life, and for humans I feel like that is entertainment, and you shouldn't, and that is a paradox in and of itself. And so the whole purpose behind this podcast, at least what I was thinking, was that we would talk about this episode we're talking about wrestling, but that's not going to be, it's going to be entertainment. You know, wrestling is something that we're very passionate about, but
movies, games,
comics, anything that could be classified as entertainment is what we would like to be focusing on. Now, we'll talk about other stuff. Maybe we'll talk about actual stuff that matters in the world.
Maybe some politics.
We'll see about that.
Maybe I don't know.
We'll see about that. But as of right now, the working idea is purely we want to focus on entertainment. All right, and I'm sorry. So as you were saying, right, the subject of this video is wrestling.
The subject of this video is going to be professional wrestling, and why we think wrestling is the last, what would you call it? Theater, last live theater that you would.
Well, Emp Lemon called it the last bastion of theater.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because theater is still around, but who the hell cares, right? Unless you're making 7 figures a year and you wear tuxedos on the daily. I mean, nobody's really clamoring to go to the theater, right? It's not.
Yeah.
But you watch wrestling, and granted, wrestling's not the most popular thing in the world, right? Like
it used to be.
Like you look at the Super Bowl and you have like 50 million people in attendance. You look at Wrestlemania and have they ever broken 1 million?
Oh, definitely.
When do they break 1 million? He's Googling it. But point being, wrestling's never gotten close to the Super Bowl or to any other quote unquote Super Bowl of anything. And yet I love wrestling fans because you go to the theater, and what kind of fans are you expecting to see? You're expecting to see people in suits who act very polite and upright and proper.
So WrestleMania 21 is the highest WrestleMania buy rate of 1.085 million pay-per-view buys.
21?
Yes.
What stadium was that at?
21. It was the Staples Center in Los Angeles.
What was the main event of that?
Pretty sure that was Cena when he won the world title for the first time, but I'm not. Maybe WrestleMania 21 main event. I'm pretty sure it was Batista and Triple H might have been. I don't know.
So to go back to answer your original question, why do we love wrestling? Well, I can say personally, I have always loved storytelling. That's always been my favorite art form, I guess you'd call it, right? I have a passion for film. I for the longest time, I've wanted to work in the film industry purely because I love stories. I love the emotions that they create in people. And I feel like wrestling is the most deepest personal form of storytelling that we as humans have invented because you look at writing and you're looking at paper, you look at movies and there's real people, right? But it's kind of disconnected. Like I was saying earlier, you go to a theater and nobody's really acting themselves. They're all quiet and polite and like there's people there, but they're not really interacting with you. And then you go to a wrestling event and you see all different types of human beings in the audience. And what are they all doing? They're all up on their feet, cheering.
Everybody's a part of the experience.
Some of them are booing it. You, like I said in my WrestleMania video, if you were lucky enough to watch my WrestleMania video before it got taken down, I am trying to get it put back up, but don't hold your breath because WWE hates me. But yeah, in that video, like I said, right, generally people will start leaving a football game halfway through. But when it comes to a wrestling event, nobody leaves until it's all over, right? Because they are a part of the experience, and that's why I like wrestling so much.
Yeah, I like to think of it like this. So if you take a movie, like a movie director, good example. This would be we just recently watched The Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. James Gunn, the movie director, the
2021
the good one, not the shitty one. James Gunn, the director, has a certain vision that he wants for the movie. And then he has a writer that writes a script, but they follow the script. All right? John Cena doesn't play the character of John Cena in the movie. He plays the character of Peacemaker. There's no audience to go off of. In wrestling, it's true art in a sense that, yes, Vince McMahon has, or sometimes Tony Khan, right? They have their vision of what they want overarching story-wise. But each person that plays their character gets a say in how their character is going to be used. Right? It's not just like a straight script. Sometimes things change at the last minute. You hear stories all the time of Vince rewriting Raw 2 hours before they go on air. You know, but in the end, the audience and the wrestlers themselves are pivotal parts in the storytelling process.
A perfect example of this is if you go back and watch footage of. So when did COVID start?
It was late 2019, yeah.
Whenever COVID first started and audiences were banned from going to wrestling shows, go on YouTube and look up WWE Thunderdome and
Not even that. Thunderdome was a breath of fresh air.
Thunderdome
before the Thunderdome, it was terrible.
Yeah, but you know what? The Thunderdome is the one that has the LED screen Zoom calls. Yeah. Try to watch wrestling before. At the start of the pandemic, watch WWE clips of the wrestlers wrestling without the crowd, and it's the most awkward. You need the audience there. Number one, you need the ambient noise. You need the people cheering. Like you.
To this day, I still have not watched WrestleMania 36. I still haven't watched it.
You can't do it. Yeah. You need the people there interacting with the wrestlers and being a part of it. I can't think of any other sport or art form like that.
It so much takes. Like you could watch football without fans, and you know it's basically the same as watching a football game on mute. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
But wrestling, you literally can't watch wrestling without fans.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why when the pandemic really first hit, they just had it in the performance center, nobody in the crowd, and that escalated to having all the talent that wasn't working on the show in the crowd to make some noise. It got better, of course, and then of course they came up with the Thunderdome, and I think that was the best and worst thing to happen to wrestling, because
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. It gave you something to listen to, but at the same time, that's Vince McMahon's wet dream where he gets to control everything and what the crowd thinks, to the point where he still does it today. He still pipes in fake crowd noise when there's actually people in the crowd. It's pathetic, but I mean,
I feel like we're getting. Let me just say right off the bat, if we ever do get off topic or seem like we're not cohesive, keep in mind this, like, we're just starting this out and we're doing this for fun, so like we apologize, but just bear with us. Going back to your original point,
so you look back at when probably 5-10 years ago, They didn't do anything like that. And I think the main reason why the control aspect of Vince McMahon putting a lot of effort into controlling the narrative, what the crowd thinks, is because the state of wrestling from then to now is completely different. You watch
from when exactly?
From like 10 years ago. You watch the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, and then the 2 versus Triple H, and then you watch a wrestling match today. All right, you could watch Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. Incredible work rate, very technical. But you watch a match of the caliber of Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, and the work rate is there, but the thing that is the main point of the match is they're trying to make you feel, right?
Right.
There's storyline, and me and Aaron, when we first met, when we found out that we were wrestling fans, of course we were asking each other, well, what are your favorite matches? And the one that he always brought to my attention was Undertaker versus Triple H, Hell in a Cell, at WrestleMania 28.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't as good as the WrestleMania 25 match with Shawn Michaels. So we argued about this for, what? Almost a year now.
Yeah.
And we decided to finally just watch all 4 of the matches back to back to back to back.
The end of An Era Saga.
Yeah, the end of An Era Saga was what we're deeming it. And we have both come to the conclusion that I was wrong.
I steered him towards the light.
But let's talk about why the match was so good.
Yeah, we wanted to go, seeing as it's fresh on our minds. We literally just watched all of them back to back last night. It's fresh on our minds. We wanted to go through them all, give our thoughts on each of them, rate each of them, and just kind of talk through that whole storyline. And I can finally talk about it just because it's always been my favorite match, like Ben said.
Yeah, I mean it's not my favorite match. We also had the same discussion literally right after we watched the match, because I was of the opinion that the Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso Hell in a Cell match is like the greatest Hell in a Cell match of all time, and he always keeps on going back. No, it's Taker versus Triple H. The thing, and goes back to what we were saying, the thing that separates the 2 of those matches, one had fans, and the other one didn't have fans. And both of them should have had blood, but they didn't have blood.
For context, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns was, like I was talking about, it was in the Thunderdome, so there were no live people in the audience. Match was still fantastic, but it was
incredible. But let's talk about the matches in order of how they happened. So WrestleMania 25.
So the first match of the end of An Era Saga was Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Yeah. And I don't think that it's an understatement to call this one of the best matches in wrestling history.
Yeah, no, not at all. For a lot of people, it's their favorite match of all time.
You'd be hard pressed to find anybody who doesn't like the match.
Yeah, and especially on the card that it was at, because if you look at the WrestleMania card that year, you had the Chris Jericho versus all of the legends story arc with like Jimmy Snuka and those guys. And it wasn't good. It was definitely a one-match show. That was also the same WrestleMania that Edge retired. That was when he had his last match, WrestleMania 25.
Who was it against?
It was against Alberto Del Rio. It was the first match on the card.
Edge retired against Del Rio?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I wish I didn't know that.
Good old wife beater. Well, he didn't retire. He unretired, so...
Well, yeah. But I don't like Del Rio.
Edge is my favorite wrestler of all time, by the way. So we're going to see a lot of...
Mine is Bray Wyatt. I'm sure we'll talk about that another time. So the thing this might be hard for me to explain, but what I like so much about that match, I feel like Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 has a lot of similarities. Maybe not a lot, but it has one key similarity with Bret Hart versus Stone Cold.
From WrestleMania 13?
From WrestleMania 13. And to me, it's that both of these matches are they are a perfect display of just raw skill. Like, from a pure wrestling skill-based perspective, both of these are perfect matches, except that the Undertaker Shawn Michaels one doesn't have the blood and it's also way longer. But the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match, the first one, the ending to that match leaves me personally believing that like that these were two competitors in their prime. Both of them gave their absolute all. Shawn could not have done anything else. He, as a wrestling expert, pulled out everything in his arsenal, and the Undertaker still managed to beat him.
Yeah, so we were watching the match last night through, and you get to a point in the match where they're fighting for dominant positions. They're fighting for rest holds, essentially, right? And Shawn Michaels puts Undertaker in a crossface.
That's right. I didn't like this initially.
Aaron didn't like it initially until I explained to him
to explain. So towards the later half of the match, like you said, if you don't know what a crossface is, it's essentially outstretching the opponent's arm to the side while you pull their head back in a ripping.
But they're laying flat on their stomach. You're trying to essentially go across their face and rip their.
And what happened was that Undertaker's arm was just kind of resting in between Shawn Michaels' knees, and then Shawn Michaels had both of his hands.
It was almost looked like he was putting him in like a headlock.
It looked like
when he was laying on his side.
If you've seen the match, then you know what it is. If you haven't seen it, just know that it did not look like Undertaker was being hurt at all by what Shawn was doing, and I didn't like that.
He didn't like it at first because I think we've kind of in a way bred ourselves to watch people do moves and call it good wrestling. When in reality, most of the times when people were just doing moves, it doesn't make any sense. Well, in this case, the move didn't really look that good, but there was a reason behind it. The reason it didn't look good is because The Undertaker was literally fighting to get out of the crossface. And if you were going to fight to get out of a crossface, you would go on your side because then he can't yank your neck back. And it's really got me thinking about, the ring psychology that we see today versus how many years has it even been since that? It's been over 10 years since that match. 14 years? Yeah, it's the type of ring psychology that we see now is almost non-existent when you think about it. You think about, especially the guys on AEW that are doing all the flips. And don't get me wrong, we both love AEW. But it lacks a certain ring awareness.
What does?
Just like the jumping around doing the moves. So a match that at first I tricked myself into loving and Aaron did not like was he hated it. It's abysmal. Right?
Let the record show that he called me crazy for hating this match.
So about 3 weeks ago, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, right? Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara had a ladder match for the TNT titles on AEW. And it is widely regarded by a lot of people in the industry now, including like Dave Meltzer and all these podcast guys that talk about wrestling, as like the greatest one-on-one ladder match since Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. And they did so much flippy stuff, so much cool moves in that match that I was like, oh my God, that match was amazing. Did you see the spot where Sammy Guevara like jumped off the ladder and gave him a cutter off the ladder? And Aaron's just like, you're missing the whole point. Literally not a thing that they did in that match was believable.
Who was that? Who was the...
Jim Cornette. We watched him review it.
The exact words that Jim Cornette used that's not what I thought when I watched the match, but hearing him say it, that explains my thought process. Jim Cornette said, how long was the match? 30 minutes?
It was about 30 minutes.
Jim Cornette said for 30 minutes, Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara sold the audience that not a single thing that they did to each other hurt them or slowed them down, and as a result, the next time that I see Sammy Guevara do anything to anybody, I'm gonna question, and I actually see that person selling. I'm gonna question, why is he not getting up? Because I watched Sammy do this to Cody.
Yeah, they no-sold each other's finishers. And we'll get into that topic when we're talking about the later matches in this run of the End of an Era match.
Yeah.
But it really gave me perspective of what a modern wrestling fan likes nowadays. They don't like the psychology. They've been talked into. You heard it last week on Dynamite when Eddie Kingston's like, this is a professional wrestling company. This isn't a sports entertainment company. Well, to me, sports entertainment isn't what WWE does every single week. Sports entertainment is when like Johnny Knoxville comes and wrestles someone, or when Bad Bunny comes
when
back.
When
Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, like that's sports entertainment.
When it's done purely for spectacle.
Yeah, that's what WWE does on the regular is professional wrestling. They just don't market themselves as professional wrestling because they're billionaires and they know how to make money. All right. But it really put into perspective how, you could show a kid the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels match. You could show him, Steamboat Savage at WrestleMania 3. You could show him all of these great matches that have an impeccable ring psychology. And he'd probably be like, well, it's boring. They're not doing any cool moves. And to me, that's an insult to the business. It's like
wrestling's fake, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. I never understand whenever people make fun of me for liking wrestling. They say, well, Aaron, wrestling's fake, and I say, yeah, but it doesn't look that way, right?
Yeah.
At least it shouldn't. It's like we were talking about, right? That match looked fake to me because nothing that they did looked like it hurt it, and I thought that it was stupid, right?
Yeah, so I watch a lot of Al Snow wrestling seminars.
Al Snow.
Al Snow, yeah. He's a head trainer at OVW, and he used to work at WWE a long time ago, right? Okay. And he was the guy that carried around. He had like a mop. No, that wasn't him. That was Perry Saturn. But he was like, it was like an insane gimmick. And he was the one that said, what's the whole point of a wrestling match? It's to trick the audience into thinking that both guys are trying to win. He's like, what's the purpose of a tag team match? You work the gimmick of the match. And he said, like, the one thing that stuck out to me in the one seminar that he gave was, why don't wrestlers use closed fists? Notice they always use like an open fist?
Yep. And
guys were saying to protect their opponent. And he's like, no. He's like, so that they can, make contact so the guy can sell it more. He's like, no. He's like, why do guys use an open fist? He's like, because a closed fist looks fake as shit. Hear me out.
Yeah, I'm listening.
The Undertaker is considered by JBL to be the best pure striker in the history of wrestling. Yeah. Not once has he ever balled up his fist. Who is the worst striker in the history of professional wrestling? 1, 2, 3, Shane McMahon.
Yeah, not even a second. Yeah, Shane McMahon.
The dude always throws closed fist punches.
Yeah,
it looks fake as shit every single time.
1-2s to the chest, and the guy's head is flying back for some reason.
Looks fake as shit every single time. Right? If the point of wrestling is to trick the audience into each guy is trying to win a match, you need to make your shit look real. That's where the ring psychology, that's where the storytelling, that's where the selling comes into play. Wrestling today, I don't even like saying wrestling today because there are wrestlers like Roman Reigns and Walter, of course, greatest wrestler today.
He's a huge Walter cuck, by the way.
Yeah. Gunther.
It's Gunther.
It's Gunther.
It's Gunther. Get it right.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I don't even want to say like the indie guys, but the modern perception of professional wrestling is move, doing flips.
And this is all a long-winded way to loop back
to the crossface.
To the crossface and to how I feel about the match in its entirety, where it's a very long match where an average amount of moves happen because every single move feels like this is an expert wrestler targeting expertly this other expert wrestler, and this other wrestler is countering that. Nothing
in the match doesn't make sense.
The most insane thing that happens was what they went through one table.
No, the most insane. I'll tell you the most insane thing that happened. So Shawn Michaels couldn't put the Undertaker away. The Undertaker clotheslines him out of the ring.
The camera dive, right?
All right, and then the Undertaker realizes that he can't put Shawn Michaels away. So what does he do? The next logical step in this debacle is, I'm going to use my body as a weapon and try and take both of us out. If I can't beat him, he's not getting up. Yeah. So he does a suicide dive out of the ring, lands on his head, and they both just completely just don't move for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
because they let the moment happen.
Everything about the match just it feels necessary.
How many times on how many times a week do you see someone do a suicide dive? It's like in every single match.
Yeah.
How many times is it sold like that?
Very
rarely. It's not.
Like I love Darby Allin.
Even Darby Allin's isn't sold like
Darby
that.
Allin has an amazing suicide dive, but like Darby Allin never stays down from a suicide dive. He always gets right back up. Oh yeah, so going back to the crossface, yeah. So the point that you tried illustrating to me was like, it doesn't look like it's hurting. That's because Undertaker is fighting to stay out of it. He's fighting to stay out of it right now. If you watch his other arm, it's not evident at first, but he's like rotating his other shoulder away, trying to get out of it the entire time. It looks real.
And the best part is there's a split second, about 5 seconds, where Shawn Michaels gets the hold in, and Undertaker's laying on his stomach, and he gets the hold and he locks it in, and Taker's freaking the fuck out. Right? But then he goes back onto his side, and then he ends up breaking the hold. Like it's I like that type of wrestling. It's people like to call it chain wrestling. I just call it.
Why do they call it chain wrestling?
Because it's just like in jiu-jitsu when you're like fighting for dominant positions, right? You're fighting for holds. You're fighting for specific weak points in a person's body, right? You go hold to hold to hold. Yeah. That's what they call it, chain wrestling. I just call it common sense wrestling. It's ring psychology.
Yeah. And, like, I'm not saying that I want a wrestling match to immediately end because one dude landed a good punch on a guy's face, and realistically, in a real fight, you could get knocked out from that. I'm not saying that I want it to be that realistic.
The best.
But I expect. Yeah. But when I see a guy, like you said, jump 10 feet in the air off a top rope and land on the ground face first, I expect him to lay there for a good while. When I see Sammy Guevara. What did he do? Sammy Guevara, when I see him do a swanton...
Just swanton off a ladder through a table and just gets right back
off a ladder through a table, and he gets up 30 seconds later. Point being, I like this match because everything in it feels necessary. It feels like the most textbook... From a wrestling textbook standpoint, it just feels perfect to me. The only reason why it's not my favorite is because there was no story. There's no story to it. It's just, I want to fight you. Okay, we'll fight. All right, you lost.
Okay, saying there's no story is calling it short. There's story in the match. The match itself is a story. I mean, there was no build up like storyline wise.
There wasn't any build up to it. No.
Yeah, I think that we were talking about this a little bit. I think that elevates the match. I think that alone elevates the match.
We'll come back to that when we get to the last match for reasons you know why. But I think we should move on to rating this match. What would you rate this match?
We're going out of 5 stars, right?
Yes.
I think it's a 4.8. I think it's as close as you can get to perfect.
I would give it a 4.5.
Yeah.
I'm not doing 4.8 just because that's not a star rating.
Sure, it is
in my mind.
So it is. We're doing decimal points.
There's a star and there's a half star. You don't have a quarter star.
Okay, 4 and 3/4 stars.
I give it 4.5 because, like I said, it's a perfect match from a physical standpoint. It's just there was no story to it, and as I've said, I love storytelling. I love for there to be stakes. I like to see character growth, and it was just a physical match. Nothing wrong with it, but I know that it could be better, which leads on to the rematch. So now we're going to talk about the rematch, which, again, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. Would you say that most people consider this match better than the first?
No.
No, it's not?
No, I think there definitely are people that do.
For one thing, this match is way shorter. It's like
the reason that a lot of people would say it's better than the first one is the story. It was basically a year build. The grind that Shawn Michaels did to get the match again through trying to win the Royal Rumble match only to get thrown out. Actually, Edge didn't retire at WrestleMania 25. It was 26, wasn't it?
You're the Edge
26 because Edge won the Royal Rumble that year. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I had to go back and correct myself. Trying to win the Royal Rumble, coming up short. And then, because at the time, The Undertaker was the World Heavyweight Champion. Right? So, win the Rumble, face The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And then the part that that really made the build get going was at the Elimination Chamber, when Shawn Michaels came up from under the ring and cost the Undertaker the world title so that he could face him at WrestleMania. The reason that everybody likes this match is specifically because of the storyline leading up to it and the streak versus the career. That whole aspect of it set it on another level. But I don't think it's better than the first one in ring wise.
It's for one, it's a lot shorter, and I don't think that it should be. Given that there's a lot more at stake for Shawn Michaels, and given that there's a lot more personal hatred between the two of them at this point, it doesn't make sense for me for their first match to be this long 30-minute debut of wrestling expertise, and then the second match is almost half the amount of time, and then
I think if there was any time for a 40-minute WrestleMania main event, this would have been the time to do it.
For one, this match feels way more over the top. Like
it was the main event.
Shawn Michaels gets put through a table, I think 3 minutes in. It's really early on.
Yeah, they fight right away, which is cool.
It's really early on where they're going through tables.
Do you think the fact that it was the main event, because this is back when they were still on pay-per-view, so I don't know if it really had anything to do. Do you think the reason that it didn't go as long was because they were the main event and they were trying to like crunch for time? I never really considered it. I feel like, you have the two biggest stars in the business out there. They kind of get to dictate how the match goes. But I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen like they rushed Elimination Chamber.
We'll never know. I judge the finished product, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you can take certain things into account when judging a match, but at the end of the day, I judge the end product, and the end product is that the match was not as believable, not as much of a...
I wouldn't say it's not as believable.
It sounds like I'm hating on the match right now. I'm not. It's just that
I think the finish to this match is better than the first one.
It's just that the first match is a masterpiece, so...
Yeah. I do think the finish to this match is better than the first one. Hands down.
Where he's on the rope and he pulls him up?
He's on the rope, he pulls him up, and then he does the jumping tombstone. I think that's the best finish to any Undertaker match. I loved it. Because it's like, yeah, no, you're dead now. Shawn Michaels has said in many interviews that he still had a lot left in the tank, and he wasn't ready to retire. That being said, the ending of the match was so perfect to him that he stayed retired. He ended up coming back in Saudi Arabia years and years later, which he wishes he never did. But out of respect to The Undertaker and how much that match meant to him, he stayed retired. And that, to me, says a lot about the match. I think it's great. I think it's definitely a 4-star match.
I would say that 4 stars is about all that I'm willing to give, right? It's a very good, very above average match, but it pales in comparison to the masterpiece that is Shawn Michaels.
Would you say it's the worst of the 4? Because I would say it's the worst of the 4.
That's what I would agree with that.
Yeah, and it is what it is. Shawn Michaels has had, at this point in his career, had so many amazing matches that this is probably his second or third best match of all time.
And this makes an interesting point for me, where you say, okay, well, people know that wrestling's fake, so who cares, right? It's like you were talking about. The story is what gets people intrigued, the spectacle of it. So here you have Shawn Michaels' career versus The Undertaker's streak, and you have all this backstory between them. So by default, this match should be better. And it's like, no, because at the end of the day, the point of a wrestling match is that you're supposed to convince the audience that the opponents want to win. Mm-hmm. And it's just that the first match did it better, despite not having the build-up and spectacle. The simple fact that it was a better physical match,
throwing everything
for a sport that's not actually hurting people, it really goes to show just how important that it is to make the match look believable. I would much rather watch a 10-minute match where each opponents only do 20 moves each and they all have meaning and weight behind them. I'd much rather watch that.
Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2016. 90 seconds.
That's different. I
love that match. A lot of people hate it. I love it. I think it's great.
Not the match I was thinking of, but I'd much rather watch a short match, like I said, 10 minutes, 10 moves each, and all those moves have weight and impact and it tells a story, then watch a 30-minute TLC match where the characters are doing flips all over the place and they're doing all sorts of cool shit and nothing feels like it hurts the opponent.
I will say this, that match was by far the best main event of WrestleMania until Shawn and Taker too. I say that was the best WrestleMania main event until the Triple Threat last year. I think that main event just...
He's talking about Bryan, Edge, and Roman.
Yeah. Brian Batista and Orton was great at 30. I think this is the second best WrestleMania main event of the last 20 years.
So what's your final star rating?
I'll give it 4 stars. I think it's incredible. The best part about the match to me, like I said, is the finish. And not just like, because put yourself in Shawn Michaels' shoes. 2 years prior to this, he retired Ric Flair. It's kind of like a swan song for Shawn Michaels. You know, one last year he wrestled all the pay-per-views. He also said this in an interview. His gimmick is he's the heartbreak kid. He has to go out and it has to be heartbreaking. And it's so perfect to me that he goes out on WrestleMania to the biggest star in the main event and it's heartbreaking and people are crying and shit like that. Like, I love it. And for me, like, yes, the match wasn't as good as the first one. It's still a 4-star match. It's still as close to perfect as it can get. It's incredible.
I would also give it 4 stars, right?
Yeah.
If we weren't doing a star rating, I might give it like a 3.9, but yeah, I'd also give it 4 stars. And the next match
takes it to a whole new level.
Is it 27? Yeah, it's
27.
The next match is Shawn Michaels' best friend Triple H against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 27. And was it a no holds barred match?
Yes.
It was both of them are no holds barred matches, which I would say that no holds barred is probably my favorite stipulation. I love no holds barred. I really do.
That's an interesting debate.
That's a debate for another day,
Yeah.
but I feel like no holds barred in this match elevates it to a whole new level.
I think the reason that
because
it elevates is because they use the stipulation right.
Because no offense to Shawn Michaels, right? But like when I picture Shawn Michaels, I don't picture no holds barred, and now I'm finally free to let loose and use my full potential.
Yeah.
You look at Triple H and you say no holds barred. Oh yeah, that dude's gonna fuck some shit up, right? And I mean, fitting enough. I don't like the sledgehammer, but it's a cool image for him, right? The sledgehammer is his main weapon. The one word that I would use to describe this match is just brutal, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was brutal.
It's
very brutal. It definitely needed blood.
We both agree that this match needs blood. If there was blood,
this match and the next match needed blood.
Yeah, the best way that I could summarize this match is Triple H beats up Undertaker within an inch of his life for 30 minutes straight. That's the match in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
The match starts off, it's a back and forth even bout until eventually it devolves into the point where it's Triple H brutalizing Undertaker with a steel chair. I think that he destroys like 3 steel chairs in this match from just hitting them against Undertaker's back. And the entire time that Triple H is beating on Undertaker, he's just screaming in his face, "Stay down! Stay the fuck down! What's wrong with you, you idiot?" Just hitting him over and over and over again. And the Undertaker is just refusing to die, and Triple H is just doing everything that he can to put him out, and absolutely nothing is working. Until you finally reach the climax of the match, which is... It's hard for me to judge this match separately in the same way that it's hard for me to judge Rocky 1 without also talking about Rocky 2. Mm-hmm. Because Rocky 1 leads directly into Rocky 2. They are 2 parts of the same story in my mind, and this match and the Hell in a Cell match are also 2 parts to the same story. It's like... Because the way that this match ends is, as I said, Triple H is destroying Undertaker for nearly 20 minutes straight, something like that. And then Undertaker is just barely able to scrape out a win by choking out Triple H. And then Triple H walks out of the match and the Undertaker is not able to. He has to be carried out by medics. And it directly sets up for the rematch because Undertaker is embarrassed about that. So
I think the reason that this match is so good, I've seen a lot of no holds barred matches in my life. A lot. Multiple companies. And every time you get that no holds barred stipulation or last man standing, something like that, Extreme Rules, whatever, the image of the match is always guys just hitting each other with shit. With toolboxes, chairs, ladders, tables. This match wasn't like that. Because it didn't... It definitely needed the no holds barred stipulation for the story to work. But the stipulation was the story. Right? It wasn't just like a match with no story and they just hit each other with crap. They didn't even go for weapons or anything like that for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that it was just an in-ring. Triple H goes for a chair when he feels like he needs to.
This match is a mere match. This goes back to why we're calling this the end of An Era Saga, because all 4 of these matches are connected. This match, to me, is a mirror of the Shawn Michaels Undertaker first match, because in the same way that Shawn and Undertaker only do what is necessary as professionals, Triple H and Undertaker do in this match too, but on a more brutal scale. Like you said, Triple H goes for the chair when the pedigree fails and when going through a table fails. Okay, now it's time to step it up. They don't immediately start hitting each other with chairs 5 minutes into the match because they don't need to. They're not at that point in the match yet.
Yeah, and then my favorite, the image at when Triple H is just hammering him with the chairs. It gets emotional at a certain point because yes, I think he scratches himself a couple of times and there's a little bit of blood. But the damage of the match is shown in the chair. What happened with...
Triple H's left eyebrow is cut up and bloody really bad, and that's because Undertaker hits a DDT onto... There's a set of steel steps in the match, and he got DDT'd onto them, and he cut his eyebrow. But it's not a lot of blood.
Yeah, it's not a lot of blood. It definitely needed a lot more blood. But the image of the bent, broken chair, and then Undertaker's bruised shoulder and back, that's where it starts to get emotional for me. Because, he's an icon in this business. And I honestly think Triple H doesn't get enough credit for his entire career. People like to say that he's only in the position that he's in because he married married the boss's daughter. I don't buy that for a second. I think Triple H is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time and deserves to be, he deserves his name to be in reverence. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for his own career, right? And it's moments like these in these 2 matches that we're talking about that really push that over the edge, because Triple H can work with a lot of different people, but he had the best chemistry with guys like Mick Foley and Undertaker and Steve Austin and The Rock, guys that have the same mindset in telling a story in the match, right? And the story of this match, like Aaron said, was Triple H is literally trying to murder this man, bending a chair over his back. And then and then he gets to a point where he gives the Undertaker his own finishing move after Undertaker's pretty much completely almost dead.
That's right. Okay? My favorite facial reaction in all of wrestling is where Triple H has done every single thing that he could possibly do to try to put away the Undertaker. So he says, "Screw it. I'm going to use his own finisher against him." He lands the tombstone. He even goes for the iconic tongue-out, double-arm crossed pin, right?
And then Taker kicks out at the last moment, and it scares the shit out of Triple H.
Undertaker kicks out, and when Undertaker... The reason why these matches are better than the Shawn Michaels matches is because of Triple H. Triple H is a much better in-ring facial...
I wouldn't say that. I think...
I won't say that he's better than Shawn Michaels at anything. I'll just say that in these series of matches, Triple H is a much better actor, right? When Triple H is screaming in Undertaker's face, "Stay down, stay down!" It's got weight behind it.
I know the thought you were looking for. So the reason that I think these matches are better than the Shawn Michaels matches is because Triple H is fighting in the honor of Shawn Michaels. He's fighting for his best friend,
right? And
that's the story. He's like, man, you ended the greatest wrestler that ever lived. You ruined his career. You ended his career. I'm gonna kill you for that.
To go back, so Undertaker kicks out. Triple H is shocked and then immediately is like on his back looking at Undertaker with pure fear in his eyes. His eyes are wide open, his mouth's open, and he starts doing a slow crawl backwards, looking at Undertaker as if to say, "What the hell are you?"
Yeah.
Until he reaches the point where he's up against the bottom ropes, like grabbing it with his arms, and he's like, "Oh shit, I can't get away anymore." And he's just staring at Undertaker in disbelief. And then I can't remember, did Undertaker? He didn't do a shoot up no sell, right? I don't think that he did that for the pile driver. No, he didn't.
He did it. He did it multiple points in the match. I just can't remember if he did it.
No, so I might be wrong. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But shortly after this, he moves him over to the steel steps. I think he might have been trying to go for a pedigree or something. I don't know. And then the Undertaker is just barely able to grab his arm and choke him in the Hell's Gate. All while I don't think that this would have been as cool if not for the sledgehammer, because while Triple H is in the Hell's Gate, he's holding a sledgehammer in his right hand, and he's got it raised up in the air, and you're thinking, oh, okay, he's gonna bring it down and hit him in the head, right?
And then he dropped it.
Yeah, and then he drops the sledgehammer, and you just see his arm slowly come to the ground, and you watch all the life just get squeezed out of him.
And then he's got that one last burst. And he can't do it, and then he tapped out. And like that's the thing that I like the most, is that he actually tapped out and not passed out. I know a lot of people would think it would be the other way around.
No, tapping out only works for, I won't say only, but passing out from a chokehold submission,
it protects you in a certain way.
I feel like it should only be used for like a definitive heel, because when I watch somebody get choked out in a submission, that tells me, oh, that guy didn't submit to you. You just choked him out, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sure, you won, but like you weren't able to put it, like with Roman, right? The guillotine works for Roman because Roman is a big deal, obviously, but they need to maintain that's somewhat heel status that he has. And what better way to do that than oh shit, this guy that I'm wrestling that the fans love is kicking my ass. My only option is just choke him. That's all that I can do, right? Unceremoniously, he didn't tap. I didn't get a pinfall. I'm just choking the air out of him. All right, now I'm leaving. I quote unquote won, but not in a way that was cool looking. So I'm the heel in the audience's eyes, and they don't want Undertaker to be a heel here.
I don't know, because he normally beats everybody with the Hell's Gate and they pass out. It's like, I think the reason that it tapped out, I think the fact that he tapped out made the moment that much bigger. You
know what? Okay, we're gonna rate this match and then move on to the next one, and then I'm gonna come back to that because I just thought of something. I'm giving this match a 5 out of 5. This 5 out of 5 stars. This is a perfect match for me. This is everything that the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match was, but it had an actual story to it. It had in-ring and post-ring storytelling to it.
I like the post-ring storytelling.
We
should talk about that a little bit before we move on.
I should have said pre-storytelling too.
Yeah, the post match shenanigans would be Triple H loses, he taps out, right, and he's pretty much unconscious, but he gets up and he limps to the back. But the Undertaker, the toughest guy in WWE, the old, the sheriff, right? Because this is a Western we discussed, right? He needs help to get back. He gets stretchered out. The guy that won the match gets stretchered out. And that, to me, really goes back to, like, Triple H tapping out. That's why I like the finish more. Because, I mean, he taps out to save himself because he knows, like, he's not gonna win. There's no way he can get out of the hold. So he taps out because it makes sense. That right there makes him look smart. It makes the Undertaker look like a badass. And then he gets his heat back because he just gets up and walks away when the Undertaker needs help to leave. I wouldn't say this is a 5 out of 5 because if 5 is the maximum,
yeah,
the next match is 100% better than this match, and it's not even a question.
The next match is a 6 out of 5.
Yeah, so I mean, I would give it a 4.5. I would put it on the same level as the WrestleMania 25 match.
Okay, so we finally disagree. This is a 5 out of 5. It's a 4 out of 5 for you.
Yeah.
Now going back, right? The lead up to the rematch, Hell in a Cell, I was thinking about it. The reason why I like that Triple H actually taps out is because there's a promo that Triple H, because the Undertaker is embarrassed by this. Obviously, he wants his rematch. He tells Triple H like I'm not gonna let that image of me being stretchered out from a match that I won. Like I'm not gonna let that be how I'm remembered. Give me the rematch. And Triple H says the line, "No, I'm not going to do that because after fighting you, I know what I have to do. I know what I have to do to beat you. I have to literally end you, and I'm not going to do that." So that tells me, right, going back to that match, he's in the Hell's Gate, right? Might not have been what they were going for, but in my mind, the story that makes is Triple H is trapped in the Hell's Gate, and he's like, "All right, I've been beating this guy up for, what was it, 40 minutes straight. I've done everything that I can possibly do to him, and now I'm getting choked out in the Hell's Gate. Sure, I could fight out of this, but even if I do, what's gonna happen? I keep hitting him with chairs, and then he doesn't kick, and then he kicks out again. Like in order to beat this guy, I have to fucking kill him." And that's why he taps out. It's because he says, "No, I'm not gonna do that. This isn't worth it anymore. And I don't want to kill this guy." And then he leaves.
Yeah,
that's the story that was being told to me.
Beautiful.
That's why I like the kick out. And so, but the rematch is better.
And the reason
I don't understand how you make a match better than the one that we just saw.
Oh, it's easy. You up the stakes. You put it in Hell in a Cell. You have Shawn Michaels be the special guest referee, and you say Triple H has better facial reactions than Shawn Michaels. I disagree. I think Shawn Michaels has better facial reactions than Triple H, and that is on full display here.
Well, I was gonna say Shawn Michaels does a really good. Yeah, we'll get to that. So this match. So a little bit of context. This match is the sole reason why I love wrestling. Right. Growing up, I distinctly remember we didn't have internet or cable or any of that. So the only way that I could watch wrestling was through those best pay-per-view matches of the year DVDs. I think that Survivor Series 2021 is the official last DVD release that WWE's ever going to do. But for like the longest time, they would for the longest time. I read it somewhere. It might not be true.
No.
But my mom got me she got me two, right? She got me best pay-per-view matches 2011 and 2012. And on 2011 had the Undertaker and Triple H's first match. But on the 2012 one, it had this match. And growing up, I probably watched this match 100 times. Easily 100 times. This match to me, this match made me fall in love with wrestling because this match showed me that wrestling was a vessel for storytelling that cannot compare to any other art form, right? I think that it's more personal than it's more personal than movies and video games. I don't know. It's hard for me to put it into words, but this match just means so much to me. I grew up watching this match over and over, and I love this match.
I think the main reason why this match is obviously it's bigger because of the spectacle, because of the Hell in a Cell stipulation. It's bigger because Shawn Michaels is in it. All right, but the one thing that's different about this match than the first three is that in the first three it was Shawn Michaels. He was coming after Taker, and then he came after Taker again, and then in the Triple H match, Triple H was trying to avenge his friend, right? In this match, the Undertaker's coming after Triple H. He's coming after Triple H because Triple H got to walk out of WrestleMania, and the Undertaker was stretchered out of WrestleMania, and it's such a I don't want to say it's such an ego-driven thing, but it's like, I'm a man. That's not how I want to be remembered, being stretchered out like that. And that, to me, in the promo packages alone, sets this up.
That's right, because we watched
as bigger.
Because we watched the promo beforehand,
yeah.
And Undertaker says the phrase, "I will not let that be the image of me that goes down in history."
Yeah. Which is kind of sad. Because it kind of ended up being in.
Not talking about that. I don't want to think about that match.
I don't want to talk about the Goldberg match. And
I don't want to. No.
The Roman Reigns match.
I don't want to talk about any of this.
Undertaker should officially have retired after this match. It would have been a really great moment.
We're calling this discussion the end of an era saga, but this
is actually the end of the era.
This match was literally labeled the end of an era because. I think the tagline that was used was that it was the two men that have defined the WWE for the last 15 years are finally meeting, right? That was the promo for the last one, and then for this one, it was the same thing, except they're meeting for the last time, right? This is the end of an era. This is to decide who's the better quote unquote wrestler, and I like this match. This match to me is it's two men trying to kill each other. That's what this match is.
Do you think that this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time?
So I've talked about this, right? I think that the word greatest is pointless because everything at the end of the day is subjective. It is
to you is it the greatest WrestleMania?
To me, it's the greatest because it's my favorite. Yeah. To me, it is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, hands down.
Yeah, I definitely have a hard time calling it the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. It is without a question the greatest Hell in a Cell match ever, and that alone is, especially with the matches that happened 2 years ago. We had a lot of really good Hell in a Cell matches, even this year, with Edge and Rollins, and last year with Reigns and Jey Uso. This is better than both of those matches in terms of a Hell in a Cell match. And I don't. The fans definitely have something to do with it.
To me,
the story is everything.
To me, there's a lot of things that make this match amazing for me, but Shawn Michaels as the guest referee adds a whole new layer to it, because imagine that match with just any referee.
With like Mike Chioda.
With any referee, right? It'd be great. But you add in Shawn Michaels, and now the story that is being told is that Shawn Michaels has to watch his best friend try to murder the man who ended his own career, who he now has an infinite amount of respect for.
And call it down the middle.
And vice versa, he has to watch that man try to murder his best friend. And both these men want revenge on each other. They're both trying to kill each other. And you have to be impartial and judge it down the middle. And the entire and every time that Triple H starts beating up Undertaker, Triple H is screaming in his face, "End the match, call it right now." And every time that he goes over to Undertaker, Undertaker's limping and he's telling him, "Don't do it." And then when Undertaker's beating up Triple H is Shawn Michaels' best friend, right? You can just watch Shawn Michaels cringe in the corner, and then he comes over and he begs Undertaker to stop, right?
Yep.
Shawn Michaels Shawn Michaels to me represents the audience, right? He does. Shawn Michaels being the referee in that match, he's a stand-in for the audience as a whole watching the match, just begging them not to kill each other, right?
Yeah, because they don't know who they want to win. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was the closest that the streak came to ending until it actually was ended. And that, would you say it was this match or the previous match? I think it was this match. This match was the closest it ever came to ending. Like, people actually believed that it was going to end.
Yeah. Yes. There's a point in the match where Triple H is holding the sledgehammer and he tells Shawn, "End it right now or I will." And he's holding the sledgehammer like a bat, implying that he's going to bust his skull in. Shawn goes over to Taker. Taker's not responding. He gets up. He half raises his hand to act like he's about to call it, right? And Undertaker's watching him. So he's like, "Oh shit, he's gonna call it."
Is that your favorite part in the match? When
I'll get to that. I'll get to that, right? And my favorite part's probably just the walkout. Honestly, it's probably just them walking out and then looking back. But yeah, so Undertaker sees this, and without saying, he doesn't say it, but he's like, "Oh shit, he's gonna call it." So when Shawn goes back to Taker to check on him, he puts Shawn Michaels inside of the Hell's Gate submission, so that way he can't call the match. Triple H helps him, and then when Shawn Michaels wakes back up again, he's pissed off, right? So he sweet chin music's Undertaker, and then Undertaker immediately afterwards falls into a pedigree from Triple H. And I would say that that's the greatest near fall of all time, because every single audience member thought, that's it, it's over right there. Both those moves at the same time, it's done. And then he kicks out, and when he kicks out, Shawn Michaels has like a full-on breakdown, right? Shawn Michaels is like, he's like scratching his head.
Feeling so guilty.
He's scratching his head, he falls in the corner, he's holding his palms in his hand, he looks like he's about to start crying. He's watching Taker and Triple H lie there on the ground, just defeated. And I would probably call it, that's not my favorite part in the match though. I don't know. The entire match is filled with moments like that, so I can't call that my favorite. But
I think my favorite part in the match is, I guess it's not really a part in the match, but it's just like the banter. I love the banter in the match. Yeah. This is a thing that I think, like we were talking a little bit last night, I think Roman Reigns definitely did his homework on these matches when he was coming up with with his tribal chief persona and like the little banter that he would have in the ring, just like Triple H talking shit, saying stay down, I'll kill you, like that kind of stuff. That to me is
end it or I will.
Yeah, that to me is my favorite aspect of the match, and
I like it when wrestlers are bantering and actually talking because that helps tell the story.
By far, out of these 4 matches, I think the debate is between the first one and the last one.
Which is kind of poetic because
it is very poetic.
In a book, beginning and ending should be the strongest.
We were having this conversation. This is where we might disagree a little bit. I think just the fact that there was no build up for the first one and it's still regarded as like the greatest match of all time sets it higher than this match, because this match needed that first match to happen in order to happen.
And I disagree.
Yeah.
Because the first match is a technical display of pure wrestling perfection, and the last match is just a western of two aging war veterans trying to kill each other while their best friend watches in horror, not able to help either of them because he has to be impartial. And so to call back to an original point, because you brought it up, right? You say, oh, well, Aaron, you hate the Sammy Guevara-Cody Rhodes match and because there are no selling finishers. Have you not watched this match? Yep. Triple H hits a pedigree 10 times. Undertaker hits a tombstone 3 times, and they keep kicking out of their finishers. And I was talking to you about this last night, and it's 2 men trying to kill each other, right? It's kicking out of a finisher is not a bad thing. It's how you sell it, right? If you kick out of a finisher and then a minute later you're able to get on your knees and you're standing up, that's no selling a finisher. Kicking out of a finisher and then 1 minute later you're like barely grabbing the bottom rope, that's selling a finisher, right? You can kick out of a finisher, but you need to make it look like I was barely able to survive that. You need to make it look like that.
I would agree with you on that. I think at this point the art of the finish is almost completely dead
for the most part.
Like I respect I respect the wrestlers that I respect the most are guys like Kenny Omega, Razor Ramon, and Baron Corbin, because they would rather die than have people kick out of their finish. Right. And I respect that so much. Right? And can you imagine, put yourself into this, right? Undertaker's got the streak, right? Can you imagine if up until this moment in this match, not a single person ever kicked out of the Tombstone Piledriver, or not a single person kicked out of the pedigree? Can you imagine how much bigger? Because now we're not just talking about how great of a moment the match is and the spectacle. Now we're talking about, oh my God, this is the match where Triple H kicked out of the Tombstone. Because he protected the move for a long time until he started having these marathon matches at WrestleMania. And then, like I said, the art of the finish is pretty much completely dead.
The art of the finish is dead.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Kenny Omega still keeps his, and he should. I don't think, at this point, nobody should kick out of it. Ever.
The reason why them kicking out of so many finishers in this match works for me is because
people have kicked out of it before, and it's and they sell it.
Well, no, I was going to say it's because the story being told here is not. The story being told here is that these are 2 men that are trying to kill each other. They would rather die than, and we'll get to that for the end. Each of these men would rather die than let their legacy be tarnished by the other. So them kicking out is not an act of, oh, your finisher didn't hurt me. Them acting out is
like they're just not quitting.
Them acting out is their defiance to die. So they're not kicking out saying, no, I'm still in it. They are barely raising their shoulders, barely clinging to life. After the finishers are hit on them, they're on the ground for like 5 minutes.
They have absolutely nothing left in the tank except for the ability to move their shoulder up.
Yeah, they have nothing left in their systems except that they're breathing, so they can just barely get their shoulders.
It's up. Like it's one. So before the finishes to these matches, I would say like my favorite finish to any match is the Undertaker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell match from King of the Ring 1998. Mick Foley gets dumped off the top of the cell. He gets chokeslammed through the cell. He takes a bump on the thumbtacks. He takes the Tombstone Piledriver, and he doesn't kick out of the Undertaker's finish, but he makes the attempt to. It's that last leg. I'm doing the leg thing right now.
He's doing the leg thing right in front of me. It's fun.
Yeah, but that to me was the greatest finish ever, because it's like that put him in the same league as the Undertaker when he wasn't before. Just this fact that like he wasn't able to do it, but he wasn't giving up when he was getting pinned. And I would much rather see stuff like that than I'm just old school, I guess. I would much rather see stuff like that than people kicking out of the AA all the time.
You asked
You know
me.
what I mean?
You asked me what my favorite moment in the match was, and I think I found it. So, like I said, it's the walkout's good. My favorite moment is the actual ending to the match, where Undertaker has had the upper hand on Triple H for a good 5 or 8 minutes or so, and he's just standing there with Shawn next to him, and they're watching Triple H. It looks like Triple H. He looks like Rick Grimes in the first episode of The Walking Dead when Rick Grimes is clinging onto his IV for dear life because he can barely get to his knees. That's what Triple H is doing with his sledgehammer. He's using the sledgehammer, holding onto it like a cane. Holding onto it like a cane. Knees are shaking and he's barely able to get onto his feet in the corner. And then when he's up there, he's just glaring at the Undertaker. And because he knows it's over for me. I can't do this anymore, and he's pissed off about that. But he still refuses to just die. And Shawn goes over, puts his arm on his shoulder, and he's like, "Get the fuck off me!" Pushes him away. Undertaker touches him, and he's just pissed off. He doesn't want anybody touching him because he knows like it's over for me. I'm about to quote unquote die. And knowing that in one last act of fuck it, I have some fight left in me, he does the DX sign to Triple H in the corner.
He does the cross chop.
He does a cross chop, to which Undertaker immediately tombstones him again, and then the match is over.
Yeah, I love the finish.
And after he tombstones him, Triple H does not move
for 5 minutes.
It's more than
that.
It's 7, I think. For 7 minutes, for 7 minutes, Triple H is completely motionless while the Undertaker's walking around doing his thing, and Shawn is just sitting there watching both of them. That's selling, right?
Yeah.
You say why was he able to kick out of all of those before? Because he was just barely clinging to life. He wasn't kicking out. He was existing, and now he's truly quote unquote dead.
The oldest art in professional wrestling is. The oldest, I guess it is an art, but it's the oldest rule in professional wrestling is it starts as soon as you walk out from the curtain, and it doesn't end until you go back into the locker room.
That's right.
Right? And this is such a good example of that. You know, you've seen it, like, what's the best way to say it? You know how, like, a sign of respect after a match is, you know, the guy that loses rolls out of the ring and gives the guy the ring for the intention.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. It's a sign of respect, but at the same time, like it's
and the fact that
unless they're being stretchered off, like it's not selling the finish.
So the fact that Triple H just lies there.
Yeah. If I in my entire life, I have never seen a match until, you know, not a single time have I seen a match like this one where undeniably you can watch this match and say, yes, both of those guys left literally everything they had in the ring. I've never seen a match like that until this.
Yeah,
I haven't since, to be honest.
This is the only match that I've ever seen where I truly believed neither one of these wrestlers has anything left in their tanks. They used everything that they had. Yeah. So much to the point where when I say that Triple H does not move, I don't exaggerate. He
literally does.
He's lying there on the ground, dead, for 7 minutes straight, while Undertaker's limping around, and Shawn is in the corner just watching them, crying, right? And then this is a very interesting match to me because a match ends, and what are the reactions that you would usually have? Oh wow, thank God this person won, or oh wow, thank God this person lost. The only thing that fans were thinking when this match ended was, oh, thank God it's over. Fans didn't give a shit who won. Fans were just happy that it was finally done, that Triple H wasn't getting hurt anymore, that the Undertaker was finally done hurting him, that Shawn Michaels didn't have to be torn apart by this. They were just so enamored to see these three legends come together, and the fact, and I don't know if it was planned or not. I like to imagine that it wasn't planned, and then after seeing how much that the fans were into it, then
when they all walked out together. It wasn't planned.
Triple H was getting carried out by Shawn Triple H gets carried out by Shawn and the Undertaker, and then before they walk away, they do one last turnaround stare at the audience, and the audience is just cheering for all three of them. They don't care who won. They were just so happy that they were all.
It's funny how Triple H's career basically got started with the curtain call, with them doing a very similar thing at a house show.
where they all
where they broke kayfabe and they all hugged and they all raised each other's hands when Scott and Kevin were leaving the company, right? And then that's like one of the most iconic moments in his entire career. And then this is also one of the most iconic. It's one of the best images ever in wrestling, I think, is the three of them. You know, the only thing that would have made it better, in my opinion, are two things. The first thing is when is obviously a shit ton of blood, right, on both guys. And the second thing was Shawn Michaels, when he does the count out, he goes 1, 2, and then hesitates, and then hits the 3. I think that would have it would have elevated the storytelling aspect of the match even more. But I mean, come on, I mean, there's no debate. This match is a perfect match. It's better than the WrestleMania 25 match.
This match,
I would encourage all of the wrestling fans that disagree, respectfully, go watch all 4 in a row. And I think it's actually impossible to come to the conclusion. The 25 match can still be your favorite match, but this match is better.
It can be. I don't understand. I don't understand how a person could watch all 4 of these matches and think that the first Shawn Michaels one is better than this. Yeah. I really don't. And I know that this match is very personal to me. Like I said, I grew up watching this match endlessly on repeat. But even without that, like, I mean, you watched it and you changed your. I really do. It's my favorite WrestleMania. It's my favorite match of all time. It's the match that gave me my love for wrestling. If I ever get into wrestling, it's the match that will inspire me to want to make people feel the way that I did while watching that. I
think the best part is, so like this is your favorite match. You know, my favorite match of all time is Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver Chicago. It was the street fight, right? And I showed you that match. But before I showed you that match, we had to watch the lore of the match for you to get the story.
Yeah.
And you loved that match just as much as I did, right?
No, yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome. But like I think the part that kind of goes to show that we're both old school wrestling fans, we love the story, is both of our favorite matches come with lore. You know, you can't just watch the promo package and then watch the match. You got to watch and be dedicated for, like, obviously you can watch the matches and have a good time and love them, but like once you know the stories behind them, it takes it to a whole nother level. I know a lot of people are moved by the WrestleMania 25 match, and it's still in their minds the greatest match of all time. That's a debate. I would now have to disagree with them. How would you rank these matches?
In order of
best to worst.
Triple H, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell 28, Triple H versus Undertaker.
Oh, so you think both the Triple H matches are better?
27, Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker 25, and then Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker 26. Yes, that's how I'd rank it.
So you think both the
I think that the first Triple H match and the first Shawn match are very interchangeable, but it's like I told you, right? The first Triple H match mirrors the first Shawn match in terms of everything is done perfectly. Except it has more story in it. There's more storytelling in the match, and it has more added to it. There's the brutality aspect of the.
You make a really good point. I would say the best match is undoubtedly the Hell in a Cell match at 28. I would probably have to put the 25 match.
And by the way, sorry, just for the record, me saying that Shawn Undertaker 25 is at the bottom of this list. That's not me saying that the match sucks.
You mean the 26 match?
Yeah, that's not me saying that match sucks. That's me.
It does not.
That's me saying that out of all 4 of these, that's my least favorite, and that's the worst one. But it's still like a 4. It's still like a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah,
it's still a perfect match. It's just my least favorite.
I'd put WrestleMania 28 first, the Hell in a Cell match. Then I'd put WrestleMania 25, the first Shawn match, and that just narrowly edges out the first Triple H match for me. We would agree that the 26 match is not the best one.
Yeah,
it's one of the best stories. It really is. I would pick the story in that match is the second best story. Between
I would argue that the promo is better than the match. The build up and the promo.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The promo for the 26 match where Shawn Michaels is holding his award and he's like getting flashbacks.
Undertaker, I can beat you.
Yeah,
I love
the
that.
the promo to that and the build up to that match, I think, was better than the actual payoff for the 26 match.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, no, but, like, we definitely agree on the first one and the last one. Like you said, those middle two matches are definitely interchangeable.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. I guess that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Human Paradox. Like I said, if it did get a little bit rambly at times, or if the audio quality wasn't up to par, or if there were any other issues, I apologize. This is episode 1. I feel like we pretty conclusively. I feel like I covered everything that I wanted to with all 4 of these matches. Did you?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for you. We don't have a set schedule for this podcast. We're kind of just going to do it whenever we feel like talking about a certain subject matter.
Before we close it out, I do want to say, if you are listening and you have never once seen any of the matches that we're talking about, if you have a Peacock subscription,
I think they're free on YouTube.
Yeah, if you have a Peacock subscription, they're all on Peacock. And I'm pretty sure they're all on YouTube as well.
I know that Undertaker and Triple H Hell in a Cell is on YouTube because it's on my favorites.
And if you're really if you're a wrestling fan, definitely let us know what you think of our opinions on if you think that that one of the matches is better and we didn't give it enough justice as what it deserves, then let us know that. But definitely give these matches a rewatch if you haven't watched them in a while. It's a good time. It's a good way to spend a couple hours, right?
Yeah. How long did it take for us to watch all 4 of them?
Well, we watched like everything. I think it was like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours
for all 4 matches.
Yeah, because we watched like the promos, entrances. Like, we watched everything. And on the matches on YouTube, they just start where the matches begin. Yeah. So it'll be a little less time.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to subscribe so you can watch our next episode. On our next episode, we're going to be talking about Batman, more specifically, who each of us think is the best Batman actor, what we think is the best Batman series, and
best movie. Yeah, we're going to talk. The overwhelming debate is going to be more or less movie focused, but I'm a huge Batman comics nerd.
Same.
So we're definitely going to talk about Batman story arcs in the comics. It's just going to be everything Batman. Games, comics, movies, everything Batman.
Definitely don't want to miss it, so make sure that you stay tuned in next time. We'll see you guys around.